Picture this. You open your bank statement and your chest tightens. The bills are stacked higher than your income. The creditors are calling. You feel trapped in a cycle you did not choose but cannot escape. You have worked hard. You have tried. Yet the money never stretches far enough. Sound familiar? Here is what most people do not realize. The solution to financial desperation is not always found in getting more. Sometimes the breakthrough comes from recognizing what you already have. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years studying wealth, and he uncovered a psychological law that mirrors the ancient story of the widow's oil from 2 Kings. This story isn't just a miracle. It is a biblical wealth code. It is the exact same law Andrew Carnegie used to build an empire from nothing. And today, you are going to learn how to activate it in your own life. This is not theory. This is the blueprint. The story opens with desperation. A widow comes to the prophet Elisha in absolute panic. Her husband is dead. The creditors are at her door. They are not just threatening to take her possessions. They want to take her 2 sons as slaves to pay the debt. This is rock bottom. No income, no assets, no visible way out. Does that mirror your reality right now? Maybe you are not facing ancient creditors, but you know the weight of financial pressure. You know what it feels like when the walls close in and every option seems exhausted. Napoleon Hill called this moment temporary defeat. He said most people quit right here. They look at their circumstances and accept them as permanent. They say, "I have nothing, there is no way out." But Hill discovered something the masses miss. Desperation is not the end. It is the beginning of transformation. The widow could have collapsed into hopelessness. She could have blamed God. She could have cursed her circumstances. But instead, she did something powerful. She asked for help. She brought her problem into the presence of someone who understood spiritual law. That single decision changed everything. Because the moment you stop hiding your desperation and start seeking wisdom, you open the door to miraculous intervention. Hill wrote, "Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." The widow's debt was not a curse. It was the setup for a demonstration of abundance that would be remembered for thousands of years. Your current lack is not your identity. It is your invitation. Elisha does not panic. He does not lecture her about faith or scold her for poor financial planning. He asks one simple question: what do you have in the house? Stop right there. That question is the turning point of the entire story. It is the same truth found in Russell Conwell's famous Acres of Diamonds lecture, a principle Hill considered vital to his philosophy of success. Conwell told the story of a farmer who sold his land to search for diamonds around the world. He died broke and defeated. The man who bought his land discovered the richest diamond mine in history right there on the property. The treasure was already there. The first farmer just did not recognize it. The widow answers, "Your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil." Notice the word "except." She almost dismissed it. To her, the oil was insignificant. It was not enough to pay the debt. It was not enough to change anything. But Elisha saw what she could not. He saw potential. He saw the seed of her fortune sitting right there in her kitchen. This is where most people fail financially. They are waiting for the big break, the inheritance, the promotion, the lottery win. Meanwhile, they ignore the small assets they already possess. Hill said, "The starting point of all achievement is desire, but the fuel is what you already have." Andrew Carnegie started with nothing but an idea and a willingness to work. Thomas Edison had a curiosity and a workshop. Henry Ford had a vision and a toolbox. None of them waited for perfect conditions. They used what was in their house. What do you have in your house right now? Maybe it is a skill you have undervalued, a network you have not activated, a small amount of capital you have been too afraid to invest, a creative idea you have been sitting on. That jar of oil is sitting in your possession right now, and you are calling it nothing. Now, Elisha gives the instruction. Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Do not ask for just a few. This is where the metaphysics becomes practical. The widow had oil, but she needed containers. She had supply, but she needed capacity. And here is the law. Your ability to receive is determined by your capacity to contain. Napoleon Hill called this the principle of definite chief aim. You must know exactly what you want and prepare space for it. The widow was not told to ask for full jars. She was told to collect empty ones. Why? Because you cannot pour new abundance into a vessel that is already full of old limitations. You have to create the space first. This is why Hill insisted on writing down your goals. Why he demanded clarity. Why he said, a goal is a dream with a deadline. The act of gathering vessels was an act of faith. The widow had no logical reason to believe those jars would fill, but she obeyed anyway. She went door to door. She borrowed from neighbors. She expanded her capacity. How many jars did she collect? The Bible does not give a number, but it does say, do not ask for just a few. In other words, the size of your miracle is directly proportional to the size of your expectation. If you prepare for a small blessing, you will get a small blessing. If you prepare for overflow, you position yourself for overflow. Earl Nightingale said, we become what we think about. The widow thought big. She acted on that thought, and the universe responded in kind. This is the exact strategy Andrew Carnegie used when he hired Napoleon Hill to interview 500 successful people. Carnegie did not have all the answers himself. He borrowed the wisdom of others. He expanded his mental containers by collecting insights from every genius he could find. Then he poured that knowledge into a system that changed millions of lives. You do not need to have everything figured out. You just need to prepare space for the answers to arrive. Then comes the most mysterious instruction. Go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side. Why shut the door? Because miracles require separation from doubt. The moment you begin to operate in faith, the voices of skepticism will rise. The neighbors who lent you the jars will want to watch. They will want to comment. They will want to inject their disbelief into your process. Napoleon Hill discovered this principle when he studied the greatest minds of his time. He called it the mastermind. He said, no two minds ever come together without creating a third invisible, intangible force which may be likened to a third mind. But he also warned that negative minds create negative forces. The widow shut the door because she needed to protect the atmosphere of her miracle. She needed to eliminate interference. This is why Hill told people to guard their plans, to not share their dreams with doubters, to keep their visions sacred until they manifested. Henry Ford faced endless ridicule when he proposed the automobile. Thomas Edison was called a fool for attempting the light bulb. If they had left the door open to criticism, they would have quit. But they shut the door. They worked in silence. And they poured. Notice the instruction. Pour oil into all the jars. The widow did not sit and pray for the oil to multiply. She acted. She picked up the jar. She tilted it. She poured. And as she poured, the oil kept flowing. This is the law of circulation. Abundance flows to those who move. Napoleon Hill said, action is the real measure of intelligence. You can have all the faith in the world, but if you do not pour, nothing happens. The oil stopped only when the vessels ran out. The widow asked her son, bring me another jar. He replied, there are no more jars. And the oil stopped flowing. Do you see the principle? The limit of your manifestation is the limit of your preparation. If she had borrowed 100 jars, 100 would have filled. If she had borrowed 1,000, 1,000 would have filled. The oil was infinite. Her containers were not. This is why Hill said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Your mental containers determine your results. If you believe you can only handle $10,000, that is what you will attract. If you expand your belief to 1,000,000, the supply is there. The divine mind has no shortage. You do. Expand your jars, expand your expectations, expand your capacity. The final instruction is the most practical. Elisha tells her, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." The miracle was not complete until it converted into currency. The oil had to be sold. Spiritual blessings must be transmuted into material provision. This is not greed. This is stewardship. Napoleon Hill called this the principle of transmutation of desire. He said every human achievement begins as a thought, but it must be converted into physical reality through action. The widow did not hoard the oil. She did not keep it in jars as a trophy. She took it to the marketplace. She exchanged it for money. She paid her debts, and then she lived on the surplus. That last phrase is critical. Live on what is left. This is the foundation of passive income. She cleared her obligations first, then built her life on overflow. Andrew Carnegie applied this exact law. He did not just make money, he cleared his liabilities, invested his surplus, and created systems that generated wealth while he slept. Hill documented this in Think and Grow Rich. He showed that true wealth is not about working harder. It is about pouring what you have into the right vessels, selling the increase, and living on the residual. That is freedom. So what is the metaphysical resolution here? You already have the oil. You already possess the seed of your fortune. The question is not whether the supply exists. The question is whether you are willing to recognize it, protect it, pour it, and convert it. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop dismissing what is in your house. Start gathering your vessels. Shut the door on doubt. Pour with faith. And watch the infinite intelligence multiply what you offer. If this message resonated with you, do not let it end here. Subscribe to this channel and join a community of people who are done with limitation and ready to activate the laws of prosperity. Every video on this channel is designed to bridge ancient wisdom with modern wealth. You are not here by accident. You are here because your breakthrough is closer than you think. Napoleon Hill once said, "The ladder of success is never crowded at the top." Most people quit at the bottom, but you are still here. You are still listening. That means you are different. That means you are ready. Take what you learned today and act on it. Because the oil is already in your house, the only question is, how many jars will you prepare?